Hi, friends, and welcome back. Today, our title of the blog and the podcast is the one where I talk about seasonal resets and intermittent fasting. Really excited to talk to you all about this because this is something I have a lot of experience in. And because going into fall season, now we are in the beginning of fall season, one of the things that is recommended from a lot of traditional standpoints is to do some kind of nutritional reset. So from an Ayurvedic standpoint, very often going into fall, what is recommended is something like a monodiet where you're going to do a much more bland intake of food. There's something called khichdi, which is a recipe that you can search for and make that is supposed to be very calming to the digestive system. Other practitioners will just recommend doing like just one kind of food for a week, or maybe going vegetarian for a week. And while I love that idea, and as a practitioner of Ayurveda, I see the value in it. For me personally, the ingredients in khichdi, some of them like rice, my body doesn't tolerate. So I need to look for alternatives going into fall and looking at how to do a seasonal reset in a way that is really going to serve my body, not cause an inflammatory response, and really get deep into the cells. Why this is important is that in spring and fall, these are transitional seasons. These are seasons that are setting us up for the two extremes of temperature and climate. They're also setting us up for the extremes in lifestyle. Of course, in summer, we are outside, we're going to be really active. In winter, traditionally, we would be inside, we would be more sedentary. Our primary focus would be simply to keep warm and fed. And while we're not living completely traditional lifestyles anymore, we can still learn a lot from following the cycle of the year and figuring out what it teaches us. The transitional seasons teach us that we have an opportunity to prepare. And as we're going into winter, I love the idea of, like we do a spring clean, that, maybe that's our house, maybe it's doing a longer fast in the spring. I like the idea of doing something similar in fall, but catering it to fall. And so today I want to share with you some of my experiences with fasting and intermittent fasting, things that I've done that I've loved, things that I've done that I've hated, and what I've ultimately found that works really, really well for me. Now, I want to say up front, of course, this is not medical advice. This is just me sharing my personal experience, my stories, and also that I have some extra health challenges from a genetic standpoint. I do have half a thyroid. And I do have a genetic SNP called MTHFR that makes it really hard for my body to get rid of toxicity on any level, even on a normal day. So the way that I approach fasting is going to be a little bit different than somebody that doesn't have those two challenges. However, I think that the experiences that I've had will give you insight for yourself as to some particular pitfalls that you might want to watch out for, and some successes that you can expect using any of the methods that I'm going to talk about today. I have been fasting since I was in high school, and I started fasting from a spiritual standpoint. In Christianity, that is one of the spiritual disciplines that is talked about in scripture. And I noticed that the scriptures, whether it was Christian or otherwise, they talked about when you are in a fasted state that there's something that seems to shift. You are more spiritually powerful or more spiritually in tune. People seem to have greater insight, perhaps greater creativity. All of those things appealed to me. So initially when I was looking at this, I was not looking at it from a weight loss standpoint. Fast forward into my mid-20s, I started to have a lot of health issues. And so I began to revisit fasting again in an attempt to try to get on top of whatever was going on with my body. At that time, I didn't know. I just knew that I was really struggling with energy. I was really struggling with weight loss resistance. My moods were totally out of control with irritability, like really bad. And so I knew I needed to try some things to get on top of it. And so I went back to my old friend fasting that I hadn't used for a number of years at that point. And one of the first things that I tried was a green tea fast. So this is kind of a fast that you would expect to find from more of a spa setting, I would say. And what I did was, for, I think it was about 10 days, I drank green tea and water. and I ate only vegetables, mostly cooked vegetables. It was a lot of steamed veggies, greens, that type of thing. No fats, no proteins, just simply veg. And the first couple of days on that were a little challenging because I hadn't done anything quite like that before, but I ended up really loving that fast. And I feel like that type of a fast is a good one that might be a great potential for fall. The reason I say that is because you're still eating a little bit. When you stop eating completely, your body tends to get really cold because it goes into major fat burning and spring cleaning mode. I don't like to feel cold in fall because my body is already having a hard time adjusting to the seasonal change the way it is, especially here in North Dakota. So I like the idea of doing a mono fast, either like Ayurveda teaches it, which you can look up more about Kachari or mono diets, or you can join us for the fall session of the Intuitive and Seasonal Living Academy, in which we talk about some of these things. Or you can look at doing more of a spa-based green tea vegetable fast. Another version of this would be juice fasting. I think juice fasting has its place. However, I do believe that when you don't have the fibrous components in the juice, that it can be tough on your body regulating your blood sugars. And so I prefer, if I'm going to do a juice fast, I try to keep the fiber in the juice. And I do like the idea of adding some steamed veggies in there, even just one time a day, just to help with the stabilization of blood sugars. Now, when you're just eating vegetables and doing some green tea, you're going to be under that 500 calorie mark, which is one of the things that is a marker for what's considered a medical fast. And under 500 calories, you are going to basically be in a situation where your body is still going to be in a fasted state. It's still considered a fast, but you still get to chew a little food, which can be really helpful. So I liked that green tea fast. The results of that were, I felt pretty energized during it. I definitely slimmed down. I definitely felt like it got rid of some toxic load for me because I just felt better mood-wise overall. But as I've gotten older, I noticed that I am much more caffeine sensitive. And so this is not something that I've gravitated towards simply because of the green tea component. So even though there's a very small amount of caffeine in the green tea, I notice it more than I used to. So I would say that would be one reason I wouldn't do this fast anymore. The second one is that there's some research that seems to indicate that teas, because of their tannic drying quality, may not be as healthy as we think that they are. I know one practitioner in particular that really tries to educate people down in Australia that their teas are not as healthy as they think that they are. On the other hand, green tea and green tea extract has some incredible nutritive qualities that are super helpful to us for anti-aging and for fat loss. So you kind of have to make your own decision on that. But I do like the idea of a green tea fast or simply a vegetable and juice fast or vegetable and water fast as a nice mono diet going into fall. So that's an interesting option. Then as I got into my late 20s and early 30s, the symptoms that I was dealing with started to get much, much worse. And so I started to experiment with different types of intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is different than a long fast where you go for 10 to 20 days, sometimes up to 30 or 40 days if you're under supervision without eating any food, only drinking water. An intermittent fast is getting your body into a fasted state for short periods of time and then coming out of the fasted state. And there's so many different ways to do this. And there's an incredible body of research supporting the benefits of intermittent fasting at nearly any adult age to help with so many things. So I started to mess with intermittent fasting. And one of the first ones I did was bulletproof intermittent fasting. Dave Asprey, one of my very favorite biohackers, love his work. And he teaches people how to intermittent fast for a certain number of hours of the day. And you can decide what your eating window is and what your fasted window is. And what I like about his system is that he doesn't just teach people to fast, he also teaches them how during your eating window to focus on nutrient dense foods that are non-inflammatory. This is really, really important, because if we're in a fasted window, but then as soon as we're not in a fasted window and we're in our eating window, but we're just eating a bunch of junk, we've just undone all of the anti-inflammatory work that our body's gone to work to help us with during the fasted window. So he has some information that you can get from him about how to do that. One of the primary components, however, about the bulletproof intermittent fasting is doing a butter coffee or a fat coffee in the morning, which is blending some ghee or butter with your coffee and some MCT oil or brain octane oil. Love the brain octane oil. And I love the coffee, but the coffee did not love me because I started to get more caffeine sensitive. And as I get older, I also noticed that having that much fat at one time can sometimes be irritating to my system. As I noticed that I wasn't doing well with coffee, I stopped doing the bulletproof intermittent fasting. And I noticed that I wasn't having the same kind of results with it, which were better energy, better moods, better mental clarity. I will also say that I did not lose fat on the bulletproof intermittent fasting protocol, and that I wasn't necessarily focused on that solely, but it would have been a nice byproduct for me at that time. And so I also started to look into other forms of intermittent fasting. And I tried intermittent fasting that's called every other day eating, and I hated it. Hated it. So how every other day eating works is that your first day, you can eat whatever you want. You can eat as much as you want. You can eat anything. For your second day, you have your non-eating day, which is that you eat less than 500 calories. I found this, first of all, incredibly difficult to plan for, because figuring out what I could eat that would be under 500 calories that were things that I already had as leftovers in my home, or food that I had purchased, or things that I could get at the grocery store that I had time to prep. It was like a lot of math and a lot of food prep. I really didn't love that aspect of it at all. I also found, at least for me, that my body really had a tough time shifting between a day where it was like a heavy feeding window and a day where it was like a little bit. It almost would have been better to do nothing at all the second day. So then I tried that. I tried a feeding day and then a no eating day. And I found that my irritability actually got worse. And I think part of it was just the stress of like having to figure out a social life and being around people and being at work and like not being able to eat for a day and then eating a whole bunch the next day. And it just wasn't a very practical approach for me. I know that it works for some people, but it did not work well for me at all. And I really, really hated how I felt on it. Did not lose weight on it. In fact, I gained weight on it. And I believe that it stressed my system out. So this is kind of a sidebar, is that when you're going to talk about doing intermittent fasting or fasting, and especially for the female body, when you are trying to do these things, and if you are super stressed out, this is not a good situation, because your body is going to undergo some level of stress in order to get you into a fasted state. Now, on the other side of that, the longer you're in the fast, the more it can help regulate stress hormones. But with intermittent fasting, we sometimes don't have enough time to get into that. And so I have found that sometimes when I push myself to intermittent fast or to do a long fast, when I'm already super stressed, I have the opposite results than I expect, and which are reported. I will gain weight. I will actually increase my inflammation. I will increase my stress level. I will increase my irritability. And after the fact, it makes it even harder to maintain or lose weight. So please listen to your body and know that there are times where it's appropriate to go into a fast and intermittent fast, and there are times where it is appropriate to instead choose to rest your body through resting. That is important. Then my friend Jared and I got to talking, and he had been doing long fasts, and I really started to geek out about long fasts. So I had done 5-day fasts when I was younger, but I wanted to do a 10 to 20 day fast. So I did all kinds of research. I prepared myself mentally. I knew it was going to be really tough. I knew which days of that fast are probably going to be the most challenging and why. And I just committed to it because I knew that my body really needed a reset. I was really, really struggling with weight loss resistance, and the same symptoms I had been having, I was starting to see them creep back in. And so I committed to doing a long fast. I knew it was going to be over a week. I wanted it to be at least 15 days. If I got to 20, that was going to be awesome. But I also knew that if there were certain things that occurred during that fast, that I was going to honor my body and I was going to come out of the fast. During that fast, I had only water, a small amount of whey from raw milk. Now, when I say whey, I don't mean whey powder. I mean the byproduct of making cheese is that you have whey water almost that comes off of that. I had some of that in the freezer because I'm a homesteader and I'm weird and I had that. And then I also used a couple of enzyme supplements that were said to help the body to get even further into gut repair, into the autophagy, which is when your cells go into spring cleaning mode, and so on and so forth. So I got into the fast. First day, fine. Second day, fine. Third day, horrible. It was like my body felt like it was coming apart. I wanted to eat so badly. I pushed through that because that's a common day where people really struggle. Day 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, I felt fantastic. I felt like I was floating on air. I wasn't thinking about food anymore. My energy came back. And it was around day 10 that I felt my body starting to falter. It was like, if you've ever seen a horse trip, kind of felt like what my body was doing. I felt like my energy started to spool up for the day, and then I was tripping. And I felt like my mental clarity started to spool up for the day, and then I was faltering. And I could tell that my body was really struggling. I didn't know why at that point my body was struggling. I just knew that something wasn't right. And so I pushed a little bit further to see if it was going to get better, and it didn't. I got into day 11, into day 12, and the symptoms I was experiencing were getting worse and worse. And it wasn't a toxic, like a herxing. It was really feeling like my body was not getting what it needed from my fat supply in terms of a nutrient. I don't know for sure if that's what was happening, but that is what it felt like to me. And so I slowly decided to come out of that fast by first doing some teas, herbal teas, and then doing some juices and then vegetables, and then back out of it. And I'm very glad that I did come out of the fast when I did, because although I lost 10 pounds during that fast, I felt great during the fast until the last few days. The month after the fast was awful. I felt malnourished. I felt stretched out and drained. I felt like I had damaged my body. I felt like my metabolism could not get going again. Now, keep in mind, I have half a thyroid and I had a THFR, and I did not know that at that time. So I didn't know how to support it. Most other people, when they do a long fast, will do awesome with it, and they will feel amazing after it. One benefit I will say that I did have from the fast is that I had a whole new appreciation for food in a way that I cannot even begin to describe to you. The first meal that I had after that fast was a holy and sacred thing. It was just like every flavor was like fireworks going off in my mouth. And I had fasted before and I had had a taste of that, so to speak, but nothing like when I did a long fast. And so I do feel like the benefit that I experienced from doing that longer fast was that I really started to be more mindful with my food intake and this is challenging for me because I'm an Enneagram 8 and productivity is so motivating to me. But to actually sit down and savor my food and savor my drinks and take time to eat, that longer fast really helped me to give myself permission for that. And not only to give permission for it, but to realize that it was such a crucial part of not only my physical life, but also my spiritual life, to take time to do that. But I realized that for me, with the particular challenges that I have physically, doing a long fast is not something that I feel my body is up to anymore at this stage of my life. If you're going to do a long fast, and if you can afford it, there are some incredible fasting centers that you can go to where you can be monitored. They monitor your vitals. They help you through the tough seasons. It becomes almost like a meditation retreat. There's other people around you that are doing the fasting work. Some of those people will experience miraculous cures for things, according to reports. I think it would be a really interesting experience to do. And perhaps I would reconsider my situation if I was able to do a monitored fast like that in a fasting center. However, for right now, that's not feasible in my life or my lifestyle. And I think for most people, that is not something that they can go and do. So you have to figure out something that is going to be a long-term lifestyle solution for you. So 5 years ago, I was introduced to a style of intermittent fasting in which you fast for a day or 2 days, and then the rest of your week is your feeding window. And while you fast, you support your body with some really potent antioxidants and some incredible botanicals and herbs. Now, as an herbalist, this really intrigued me because I knew what the herbs could do for me in my daily life. I had never really considered what they could do for me when I was in a fasted state. I had never played with that other than having some herbal teas while I was fasting. And I was also intrigued because my tendency naturally is to think that everything has to be hard, that I have to take the hard way. And I had a hard time believing that I could lose weight or experience the benefits of intermittent fasting if I was still going to be giving my body some nutrition of any kind during that fast. Some of the benefits that a person can experience from intermittent fasting are things like increase in your ATP, your energy molecule, increase in your human growth hormone, which is anti-aging, gut healing, because you're giving your body a chance to rest from the digestion process. It has a chance to heal your gut lining. Obviously, fat loss can be part of it. Toxic load reduction can be part of it. Part of it can be an increase in mental clarity. Part of it can be stress hormone modulation. Part of it can be just better cognitive function. I had had a taste of all of these things in other fasting protocols that I had done. But this fasting protocol was unlike anything I had ever experienced before in terms of results. So I did 2-day fasts on this fasting protocol. I supported my body with adaptogenic herbs, high quality antioxidant botanicals, and I felt like my body came back to life. It was day 10 of this protocol that I was out on my lawn, I was meditating, and I was in the second day of a 2-day fast. And I had to open my eyes and look because I honestly thought I was levitating. I had so much energy. I felt like my aura was different. I felt like I was being restored back to the person that I remembered being in my early 20s before all my health issues really started. My better moods came back. Inflammation started to reduce. I had so much better results when I was in a fasted state in this way. And I was able to maintain those results so much longer. The other thing I appreciate about this protocol is that this protocol also focuses on healthy whole foods and supplementation on your non-fasting days. So many intermittent fasting protocols I see out there are all about how figuring out how to cheat, right? Like figuring out how can I keep eating junk the rest of the time and still lose weight and get some benefits through fasting. You know, I know that there are people that have results with that, but I feel like that doesn't get to the heart of the matter of, are you really honoring your temple? Are you really honoring your body? And are you getting to the root of why you're wanting to be in those negative patterns with food and with your body? What I love about the fasting protocol that I do now is that it's focused on well-being all the time, not just when you're in the fasted state. And it helps you to have a better relationship with food and with your body all the time, not just with when you're fasting. So fasting or exercise or any of those healthy things that we might do, supplementation, personal development, they're not looked at a way to like get around the system. They're looked at as a way to get to the root, the underlying causes of what's causing us to feel like crap all the time, and actually feed the body what it needs and give the body a chance to do what the body naturally does so it can get back to its best natural state. So that is the type, excuse me, of intermittent fasting that I have been doing for the last 5 years. It is my favorite. I will never go back to any other kind because I feel so much better doing it. And I feel that my results are so much more significant when doing it. And it's been something that as a lifestyle, I've been able to maintain long-term, which is really what I'm after with people, is that long-term habit change, not just something that's a flash in the pan for them. If that is something that you're interested in learning more about, full disclosure, this is the Isagenix weight wellness system that I'm talking about. And we do have a 30-day weight wellness and nutritional cleansing challenge starting on October 4th. If this is of interest to you, I want you to stop listening to this podcast or blog, find me on social media and send me a private message, and I will get you everything that you need to get into that challenge with us. There's going to be everything that I talked about as part of our fasting and cleansing protocol, as well as an online group with expert tips and tricks from health experts from various fields, nutritionists, myself as an aromatherapist, lots of different people, chiropractors, nutrition experts, mindset work, recipes, whole food help as well. And I know so many of us are looking for a reset right now because of so many extra challenges in life. So we've got homeschooling, we've got COVID, we've got the election coming up. There's just so much extra stress, so much extra tension. I know a lot of us are feeling like we're struggling, really honoring our bodies right now with how we're showing up with our nutrition and our habits. And I am not one to want people to get into diet mentality at all. And that is actually why I support this type of nutritional cleansing system, because it's something that's sustainable long-term. It honors your body, but it's also achievable. And right now it has aspects of convenience in there for you as well, with some really incredible whole food-based meal replacements and other support tools that are really going to help you to get the results that you want, get reset, get back on track, really to love yourself from a physical standpoint, an emotional standpoint, a spiritual standpoint, in a better way, moving in through that seasonal change. The other great thing is that with intermittent fasting, you're also boosting your immunity, which is something that a lot of us are concerned about in any circumstance going into the cold and flu season. So many benefits to be enjoyed from intermittent fasting and seasonal resets if you can find something that works for you. So I encourage you to listen to your body intuitively. Ask yourself what your body is really asking for right now. Do you need a reset? And if so, are any of these ideas something that you can consider? Maybe you want to join us for that 30-day nutritional cleansing challenge. If so, please send me a message on any social media platform and I will get you hooked up. And I would love to hear if you've had some experiences with intermittent fasting, or if you've not tried it before, what is holding you back? So go ahead and comment below, like, subscribe, and make sure you hit the button for notifications. And of course, I always appreciate those 5-star reviews.